random Saturday when I was 10, my mother was putting away the groceries. And out of the bag of groceries fell this square, a green sheet with lots of little squares on it, like stamps. And I said, well, here, Mommy. And she said, well, those are S&H green stamps, honey. I don't want those. I said, well, what are they for? And she said, well, if you buy groceries, they give you these as a bonus. You put them in some books. You save the books, and you can go to the special S&H green stamp store and buy things. But I don't have time for that. And I said, well, I have time for that. And she said, well, let's make a deal. Every Saturday, if you help me put away the groceries, I'll give you the green stamps so you can keep them for yourself. I said, perfect. So every Saturday I would get on a little step stool and I'd put away the dried milk and the Cheerios and the sauerkraut. And then she'd hand me my sheet of green stamps. And I would run quickly to the table with my little pink sponge, and I'd wet them and I'd put them in the book. I even convinced her, I love them so much, to shop on Wednesday, because you got double green stamps on Wednesday rather than Saturday. I was a maniac. Then one day she told me the horrible news that she was not going to go to the A&P anymore, but to a different store, and I just better love what I had. Well, I counted them up. I had 7 whole books. It was around Thanksgiving, and I took $1 and I got on the bus and I rode all the way downtown to the S&H Green Stamp Redemption Center. And there was no money exchanged, just loot. So I walked into the place, and there were golf clubs and cheap crystal vases, and my favorite was there was this beautiful, beautiful mink stole in its own glass case. And then my eye caught it. In the art section, next to the plaster Venus de Milo, was a gold plastic ornate frame. And inside was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen in my life. He had an aquiline nose, and he was sun-kissed, and he had a strong jaw and a little beard, and a little linen shirt, perfect, tied with a bow, and long, beautiful hair, right out of like a Prel commercial. It was Jesus. And I had fallen in love in an instant. All of a sudden, I knew what Jesus really looked like. And all the stories that I'd learned in vacation Bible school about the Bible, yes, that's the book for me. And Jesus loves the little children. All the children of the world made sense. So I bought him. He was exactly 7 books. I got him home and I said, look, Mommy, I bought Jesus. Well, she was honored that I had thought of it, and so she looked at the end of the hall where we had this cheap, horrible, like, dime store picture of a windmill. And she took that down, and the place of honor in our home became the green stamp Jesus. He watched over us during the year, and I would every day, when I got home from school, I would go to him and say, I was good today, Jesus. And then every night when I went to bed, I'd say, I'll say my prayers, Jesus, I love you. My brother, my older brother, hated him because he felt that he was gazing at him when he went to do his private time in the half bath. The winter came. The winter came. And one Saturday night, my brother was out with friends for the night, and my sister was at a slumber party. So I was home during the holiday season on a Saturday, all by myself, where I could listen to my Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas record and redecorate the tree because I hated the way my mother had done it. My mother came out of her bedroom, and she was wearing her good black dress. She only had one. And my father had his cheap gray suit. And they were going to a Christmas dance at the VFW club. I sang along with the Chipmunks, and I drank cocoa, and I watched Lawrence Welk. And then all of a sudden there was a screech in the driveway. And the door flung open, and I heard my mother scream. My father had her by the arm. Now you need to know, my mother was flirtatious, and my father was jealous. And the stars had aligned that night. I guess my mother had danced too close with one of my dad's army buddies, and he was enraged. It literally sounded like a strange jazz riff. I looked at that picture of Jesus, and it was smack, whore, help us, Jesus. Smack, slut, help us, Jesus. Smack, tramp, help us, Jesus. Smack, cunt. I don't think my father knew that word. Help me, Jesus. I walked over to the phone to call the police, and my father looked at me and said, if you touch that phone. And for the only time in all the years I knew him, I felt afraid. My father was exhausted. So he grabbed the whiskey bottle and went to their room, and I could hear him sobbing from shame and sadness, and I didn't know what to do with my mom, so I went to the refrigerator and I put some ice cube in her flour dish towel like she used to do with me when I would scrape my knee, and I handed it to her. And she stood up shakily, and she covered herself with her torn black dress and went into the bedroom. I picked up a wad of the hair that my dad had ripped out of my mother's head, and even then I thought, how could something so painful weigh so little? I put it, for some odd reason, in my pajama pocket, and I went to bed. In the morning, as I was walking past Jesus, even then I realized that you can fall in love in an instant, and you can hate in the same amount of time. That handsome man with a strong jaw looked weak and pale and slack and benign. Benign B10. My mother lined us all up, bruised and battered, and said, if your father ever looks at me cross-eyed again, I'll pack my bag and leave you all. Now let's never discuss it again. And that was the moment that our lives became Jenga, where we would just pray that my father's drinks and my mother's winks wouldn't cause something to pull out the wrong bar and the whole family would come crushing down. We didn't go to church that day because my mother was obviously not to be seen by the public. But we didn't go the next Sunday either. And the Sunday after that. And we never went to church again. Now I, of course, as I was growing up, would occasionally have little pangs of religious fervor, like when the Ten Commandments was on TV. It was the 60s, and I was a little bit of a hippie, and I put on my fringe suede vest, and I joined the Jesus Freaks. And we'd all sit around a prayer circle and give each other real long Christian hugs and sing the score from Godspell. But soon I realized I was more in love with David than I was with Jesus. After college, I was madly in love with St. Francis of Assisi. So I didn't know what, so I joined a religious order. I was in the Franciscans for my novitiate year. And it wasn't long before I realized I was much more involved with Brother Xavier than I was with the Lord. And I knew I'd be one of those priests sitting in an armchair drinking very good scotch and being bitter as his life sort of burned away. Then I made some money, and my spiritual journey became transactional. I wrote checks for psychotherapy, aromatherapy, massage therapy, flotation tanks, high colonic irrigations, and more high colonic irrigations. And one more high colonic irrigation. I had a coupon. And one night I almost died in a nude, gay, Indian sweat lodge in Ojai, California. Well, I guess I was beating my tom-tom too hard and I passed out. So they brought me in, and when I woke up, I was looking at the sky. And I said to the guy above me, "Did I just see God?" He said, "No, honey, that was heat stroke." My father and my mother did adore each other. And when my mother died, my father wouldn't let them move anything. He turned his little widower house into a shrine. So the green stamped Jesus held its place of honor. When my dad died, really none of us wanted anything. I wanted a few photographs was all. And my sister put everything else pretty much in storage into her barn. Well, about 3 years later, she called and said she wanted her barn back. She wanted to rebuild a car or something. So would she mind if she had a big garage sale and it would raise money for a mission at her church? I said, "Please." And she said, "Well, what about the picture of Jesus?" And I said, "You still have that?" And she said, "Well, it seemed kind of odd to throw away the Lord." So I could put it in the garage sale. I said, "Please." She said, "Well, how much should I ask for it?" I said, "Whatever you're offered." She called me that night and said that a young girl named Maggie, who was 10, walked up to it and fell in love. And she said to my sister, "How much is this?" And my sister said, "Well, how much you got?" The girl said, 50 cents. My sister said, "It's 50 cents. Look, Mommy, it's 50 cents. I like to believe that that green stamp Jesus is hanging on Maggie's wall. And she walks by and she sings and she says, "I love you, Jesus, and I was good today." But if I had the chance, I'd say, "Honey, don't trust him in a pinch." That was 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And I never found religion. I never found that kind of faith, but I did find something extra. My journey led me to the magic and the joy and the challenges and the love and the community that I find in you. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children. 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 Look, Mommy, I bought Jesus of the world.